Hey everyone, good morning, welcome to Accelerate. So by way of introductions, my name is Jason Lowe. I am the General Manager for the Incentive Suite of Applications here at Apttus. I'm joined here by my counterpart, Sarah.
Hi everyone, I'm Sarah Vancaster, Director of Product Marketing for our incentives portfolio. Welcome.
And so in these breakout sessions, they're aligned by personas. So you're in the Sales Ops Optimizers track. And so based on your roles within the organization, there are sessions planned that are helping you give you insights into align with the business outcomes of your personas. So in this session, this is designed around sales operations. So whether you be in finance or HR or IT or sales ops, it's giving you the tools in order to support what the business processes for your selling channels and your partner sellers.
Yep, and we've got a great lineup of speakers over the next 2 days. We have customers, industry experts, thought leaders, partners, lots of different folks that are all here with some great stories and insights all around really driving sales performance and initiating change in your organization. So be sure to stop by this room frequently and catch a number of our sessions. We also have some fun giveaways and prizes. We also don't have headsets in this session, as you're noticing. So once your ears get really sore listening to headsets, come back this way and give your ears a break. We also have a view. We're the only room with a view, so stop by and snap some pictures back there. But we really do have some great stuff in store in this room. As Jason mentioned, yes, it's sales operations, but as many of you know, that really crosses a lot of different areas in the organization. So welcome, glad you're here, and we'll kick things off. I'm going to pass things over to Sheila, and she's going to introduce our first session of the day.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Sheila Basham with Apttus University. It's my privilege to welcome you to what I know is going to be an amazing session today. We have not one, not two, but 3 leaders from our awesome customer at Nexus today. They're going to be sharing with you their insights on how you can start to untangle this madness of sales compensation. So I'd like to go ahead and introduce you first to Pablo Dominguez. Pablo is the Vice President of Global Business Operations at Nexus, and he's responsible for providing operational leverage and driving strategic planning. Next, we have Mr. Tom Murtaugh. Tom is the Senior Director of the Go-to-Market Insight and Automation team, and his team is responsible for both sales compensation and sales automation. And last but certainly not least, we have Paula Zamora. Paula is the Manager of Business Automation, and she's responsible for various enablement technologies, including our own Apttus Incentive Comp. Both Pablo and Tom have extensive sales compensation and strategy consulting experience with both Deloitte and the Alexander Group. So Pablo, would you like to get us started by telling us a little bit about AppNexus?
Yeah, thanks, Sheila. You're probably wondering what AppNexus is because it's not a household name and it's not a B2B company or B2C company, so you're not actually purchasing something. We are the leading ad tech company, basically allowing for digital advertising to happen on the web. You probably still do not know what that means, so I'll give you a real-life example. So when everybody woke up this morning, they got dressed, they started thinking about the conference, you probably logged onto your phone or your computer, probably went to check the scores from the Warriors game last night on ESPN. If you like sports, maybe you went to CNN.com, the Weather Channel, doesn't really matter. All of those websites are free, right? You're not paying to go to CNN.com to read the news. And they're basically funded because advertising makes the internet free for everybody. So when you went to CNN.com and you hit enter, what's happening in real time is there are thousands of machines that are buying and selling advertising. So CNN is basically saying, hey, I have a slot here at the top of my page that I want to sell. And so maybe somebody sees an advertisement for Audi, maybe somebody says an advertisement for Macy's, et cetera. So we are that technology layer that makes sort of like the internet work. We compete with some other companies. You might have heard of them, Google, Facebook. We are 10 times better, but they're still good companies. To give you a sense of the scale of what we're dealing with, because this ties to why we chose the certain path that we're on for sales compensation, wanted to talk about other companies that are also platform sort of auction companies. And they're companies that everybody should be aware of, the New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, and Visa. So To give you a sense, the New York Stock Exchange transacts about 4.4 million transactions daily. NASDAQ, almost double or a little bit more than double, transacts 10 million contracts or transactions daily. Visa, again, doesn't matter if you're not a Visa user, MasterCard, any credit card basically. Average transactions daily for a credit card company are about 150 million. If you look at Nexus, again, because we're in the internet plugged into everything, we're transacting 10 billion transactions daily, and that continues to increase, right? So why is this important? Obviously, as you're designing sales compensation plans, that's a lot of data to roll up into quotas and pay people, et cetera. And sales compensation is a very critical component of running a business, which I think everybody's aware of since you're in this track. So why is sales compensation important? One, it's your largest cost from an SG&A perspective, right? You've got your people cost, you've got your commission costs. It's also a huge lever for a company. It is very easy to change compensation plans midstream. You can add measures, change quotas if you're not hitting your number or you want to make sure you exceed your number. It's an easy lever for the business to pull. It also gives you a competitive advantage. If you want to hire people from your biggest competitor, you might want to incent your people very highly to attract top talent. But it can also be the biggest demotivator if you do not set up a sales compensation plan effectively. You might have high attrition rates, you might piss people off, and you're not going to hit your overall numbers. So part of what we're going to talk about today is the importance of sales compensation and basically a little bit of a different approach that we've taken given our background. To put this all into an analogy, running a business is like flying a plane, and this is probably an analogy that's out there for everybody, but a plane sort of represents the business, right? It's in mid-flight, it's very complex, it's got a lot of moving parts, it has people in it, there's fuel, you're trying to get from point A to point B. Now, if you work on sales compensation or you're a sales leader getting paid, you realize that businesses are very dynamic and you might get asked to make a change midstream. You acquire a company and you've got to integrate different people. You divest a company and you've got to figure out how to change the compensation plans. In a Harvard business case, unrealistic world, what you would want to do is say, all right, I got all these tasks, I got to do my job. Can we just land the plane, put it in a hangar, do some things, make changes, and then I'll get back to my day job when I'm done, right? This is not reality. I don't think anybody realizes that we can actually stop our business to actually do our jobs, right? What actually happens is something a little bit more like this.
We'll go out and find out what my little boat.
Skipper, look. Analysis. It looks like a small incandescent bulb, designed to indicate something out of the ordinary, like a malfunction.
I find it pretty and somewhat hypnotic.
That too, sir. Right. Rico. Manual.
Problemo solved.
Sir, we may be out of fuel.
What makes you think that?
We've lost engine 1. And engine 2 is no longer on fire.
Buckle up, boys. Don't look dull. This might get hairy. Attention! This is your captain speaking. I've got good news and bad news. The good news is we'll be landing immediately. Bad news is we're crash landing. Here comes the air travel.
So if you don't fix your plane in the air, this is exactly what can happen. You crash, things blow up, things are bad. What you're going to hear now from Tom and Paola is a different way that we've approached sales compensation planning. And again, both Tom and I come from consulting, so we have done the conventional thing. This is not the silver bullet to sales compensation. We're not saying that we have all the answers, but I do think we've come up with a very unique approach that will hopefully allow you all to assess your business a little differently and think about sales compensation in a different way. So, Tom?
Awesome. Thanks, Pablo. So, what does it mean to fix sales comp on the ground? What does it mean to take that plane, land it, put it in the hangar, and fix it? It means working linearly. It means taking a look at sales strategy, at process first, and then fixing compensation after you fix all those downstream issues. It's awesome, right? Like, this is the right approach. If you read any books on sales compensation, this is what you should do. You should work across segmentation, so figuring out what your customer base is, what products you're going to sell to those customers, what your sales coverage is, how you're going to cover and actually sell to those customers, what sales process is, how you're going to execute those plays with those customers, what the jobs are for your sales team, who's going to be running those plays within the process, what the talent is for those jobs. So what are the people and the profiles that you need to perform those roles? And lastly, what are the KPIs and metrics to actually achieve the outcomes that you want? And then, when all that's done and locked, you tie the bow on it with compensation. And that's when compensation's super, super easy. because all the other critical decisions are made. So from a pro's perspective, it's really comprehensive. This is an awesome opportunity for emerging org or like a brand new org. Honestly, Pablo and I have been through, dozens of compensation engagements over our careers. And maybe one time we've had the opportunity to do this. So really, from a con perspective, it's slow. It's not realistic. If you have the opportunity to do this, do it. So what does it mean to really fix sales compensation right now? It means not even realizing you're in the plane. It's saying what plane? It's saying I'm going to focus on the seat in front of me, sitting in this thing that I don't know where I'm going or if I'm flying, and I'm going to fix this one little piece. And I'm going to do it beautifully. I'm going to look at all the sales compensation principles. I'm going to make my sales compensation plans sing. They're going to be perfect. So what's the pro here? It's great CYA. When the consultants come in, look at your comp plans, they're going to say, wow, you have the perfect leverage. You have the perfect pay levels. You have all the measures right. They're perfectly aligned with what our principles say they should be. But what's the con here? Most likely, your comp plans aren't aligned with what your strategy is. You're going to be asking your sales reps to do things that they're not going to get paid for, or vice versa. So it's not really realistic. It's really the tail wagging the dog, right? Are those dogs here? No? Okay. And the last thing is, you're going to hire people like Pablo and I, when we were consultants, to come in and fix all those other pieces that you have out of place now because your sales compensation plans are so perfect, but misaligned with all your strategy. So how do you approach this? How do you fix sales compensation while you're flying the plane? How do you fix it in midair? It's breaking that linear thinking and thinking about things more interrelated. All the pieces of sales process and strategy together, combined, touching each other. So when you bring one of those pieces into the focus area, so for this example, obviously we're bringing compensation into the focus area, you need to understand first what is and isn't working with all these other pieces. So let's take an illustrative example, right? So let's say, for whatever, XYZ company, your segmentation is ideal. You know the products you're going to chase, you know the people you're going to chase, and you know how you're going to align your products to those customers. You have your coverage locked. You know when you're going to use direct, indirect sales channels, inside sales, outside sales, et cetera. Sales process, maybe it's not locked. You know, depending where you're at as a mature company, maybe if you're a more mature company, you have a very defined sales process. It could be a differentiator. It could be a productivity driver for your sales team. But a lot of times, the sales process isn't really defined. It's more tribal. People are going out, selling things, don't actually know, exactly what they're doing, but they're closing deals. Let's say your jobs are kind of defined. Because you don't have a really defined sales process, it's going to be hard to define your jobs, but you know you need certain types of roles. Your talent, though, is defined. Because what's the first thing you do when you want to get salespeople in the door? You go out and find what your competitors are doing. You find out how much they're paying, you buy the surveys, you find out what the pay levels are, what their comp plans look like, and you lock that down. Awesome. And let's say your KPIs maybe are somewhat locked. You know what indices you need to look at to drive success, but maybe you don't have the tools and the reporting in place to actually do it. So, what do? Only fix what the rest of the business can support. Only fix what is supported by the definitions of sales strategy and process that you have in place right now. So what does that mean? It means maybe you create business unit specific plans. You know you have different BUs or maybe different product teams. Create plans specifically for them because you have outcomes that you want to drive. Your coverage is locked. You know you're going to use channel sales here, you're going to use direct sales over here. Make sure you create differentiation between the plans. It's a key strategy decision and it's fully defined. Lastly, your talent is locked. So make sure you update your pay levels and make sure that they're aligned to what type of talent you want to get in the door. But that's it. Don't touch anything else. But do create a roadmap to touch the other pieces once they turn green, once they're defined. So what does that look like? Let's say your KPIs and your reporting are now fully defined. That's great. Now you can put in those new plan measures. Profitability, market share, something maybe that's very specific to your business that you need to measure to really understand if you're being successful or not. Sales process is defined. Awesome. You can update your crediting rules. You can double credit teams that are working together. You can figure out how your hunter and farmer crediting rules are going to work together. And then you lock your job design. Awesome. Now you can actually create differentiation between the roles that you have. So if you have a farmer like an AM and a hunter like an AE, you can finally create plans that are unique to the specific actions that you want them to drive. Okay, so this is like our approach, right? So what does this mean for us? I joined Nexus about 2 years ago, And we had a fair amount, like any company, of compensation issues that we needed to address. So I'll tie this back to the plane analogy. So the first thing is we had no centralized compensation team. We had 5 BUs that were designing, administering, and governing their plans all differently, all on their own. That's when Pablo brought me in, and we basically took a non-existent cockpit and put a pilot in there to actually create some overarching compensation program and a compensation team that could make sure and manage the plans effectively. So we fixed this right away. Secondly, we had really qualitative plans and measures. So basically, we didn't have instrumentation in the cockpit of our plane. But you know what? Our company was okay with that. We said we have a culture that we focus on what people are doing, the quality of their inputs. We don't necessarily need to see right away what the outputs are. We have long sales cycles, blah, 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 all the same stuff. We didn't fix this right away. We finally fixed this year because it's been a huge focus area. Normally, if I would have walked in as a consultant, I would have said, you need to put harder measures in your plans. Get rid of those MBOs, get rid of those KSOs. You need to measure on revenue. You need to measure on profitability. We didn't fix that right away. We had no structured quota setting process. I don't think I've walked into an organization that has had a really structured quota setting process, but this was like us flying a plane without a flight path. We kind of knew where we were going, but maybe we didn't actually know where we were going to get until we landed. We fixed this over a 2-year period. We took a pretty decent step the first year, but then the second year is when we really had the reporting and all the other processes in place to make this happen and put some very structured quota setting process in place. We had hunters focused on very small deals. So this is basically like having your flight attendants walk around and make sure that the overhead luggage is perfectly aligned. And instead of like focusing on the important things like dragging a passenger off if you're overbooked, you know. This was something where we had buy-in from our execs, from our board, from all our sales leaders to fix, and we fixed this right away. This was our big win. This was the thing that got the compensation plan rolling, and it was the one big thing that we did the first year. Next, we had inconsistent upside. We didn't know what altitude we were flying at. Coming from different business units, we didn't even know what type of plane we were. And this took a little bit to figure out. It took a 2-year process to understand exactly where we wanted to be from our upside and the potential that sales reps and account managers should have within their plan. And then lastly, we had manual administration. So we were doing everything in Excel, and we basically didn't have an autopilot. Thank you, Airplane, for this wonderful picture. And this was something that we fixed right away because we knew this would get us scale, visibility, and another big win, which Paolo is going to talk about right now.
Thank you, Tom. Great. So how did we get into autopilot mode, or how are we getting there? The first thing that we did is that we spent a lot of time talking to the field and our stakeholders, and then just get a really good understanding of what are those issues that we're having and sort of like what are we trying to solve for. One that was clearly defined, and we started talking to different vendors, seeing who can we partner with that would really help us address all of those burning issues and get us to where we need to get. And that's how we found Apttus and decided to move forward with our incentive comp solution. So once that was locked down, we started documenting all of our requirements, making sure that we were accounting for all of our different use cases so that they could be incorporated into the build of the tool, which is exactly where we are today. In a few weeks, we'll be moving to testing, validating, and making sure that all of those things and all of those use cases are captured in the tool so that we could have an amazing launch across Nexus. Obviously, the process doesn't stop there. We will then have to make sure that we're gathering feedback and continue to enhance and evolve with the organization. So to put some visuals and give you guys some context into what we are working with today, we've put together this like beautiful set of screenshots from all the different Excel sheets that we're using. It's obviously really messy, very error prone. It takes 2 to 3 weeks to finalize calculating what the compensation payouts are going to be at the end of each quarter. There is no visibility. It's really not sustainable or maintainable. But the good news is that we are completely moving away from this and stepping more into something like this. So this is actually going to solve a lot of problems that we have today. We're gonna have visibility for the commercial teams, like both PEs and managers, into what their compensation is looking like throughout the entire quarter, rather than just having visibility like 2 or 3 weeks after the quarter has been closed. It's also going to be easier to manage from an admin perspective. It's going to be less error prone. It's also going to allow us to implement some controls that we're not able to implement today just because of how hectic the process is. And more importantly, it's just going to streamline the entire sales process and support process. So probably wondering what are the steps that I need to follow from a sales comp perspective to get here? What are those guiding principles that I should be following? So now Tom and Pablo are actually going to walk you through what those are.
Awesome. Thanks, Paolo. So what should you do first? First, you got to realize you need to fix the plane in the air. You're in a plane, you can't land it, you got to fix it in the air. Next, you need to understand what is defined and what isn't defined within your sales strategy and process. This is critical. Without understanding this, it's hard to really get to the root of your compensation problems. You need to know your sales compensation principles. And Pablo will talk about these a little bit more, but understanding what those principles are will make them easier to break so that you can really challenge the status quo and think about things a little bit differently. You need to also interview your field and your leaders. You need to understand what their big problems are, where they think they're going to get a big win. And you need to bring those three things together, the understanding of sales strategy, compensation principles, what the feedback is from your field, to create and categorize all your issues into two categories, into things you can fix now, things you can fix later. Get that big win, fix that one big problem that you can fix now that your strategy will support, and then build a roadmap for the future compensation problems that you want to fix. And with that roadmap, make sure you don't just talk about compensation in a vacuum. Link it to all the other sales strategy and process issues that are there so that those pieces get fixed first. And then lastly, automate. Like Paola said, that visibility and that scale and that process will really help limit some of the friction from a compensation perspective and help drive some of those changes. And Pablo's going to talk a little bit about those compensation principles.
Cool, thanks, Tom. So here we have our friends from the original flight. So you heard about some of the principles that are things you should do. One thing that we've learned is also you've got to challenge the status quo. Even though there are things you should do, every business is unique, so do not get caught in this cycle and circle of, well, the experts say this, and I should do this, and I really shouldn't do that because that's a bad thing, right? So a couple of things that we found that might be useful is the concept of having to use hard measures, right? I think it's a very well-known rule. Make sure you use quantifiable measures like revenue, margin, other profitability metrics, et cetera. The term MBO or OKR is frowned upon by the industry and people because no one likes those fluffy measures, right? We found that actually those measures, not having them too fluffy, right, might make sense when you don't have things that you can't measure yet. So make sure you assess what type of measures you actually need and where you are in your sales cycle so you don't get caught putting the wrong measures in the plan. Second is the concept of having to pay hunters closest to the point of persuasion, right? So very simple concept is you want your hunters to hunt, kill, and move on, right? You want that payment to be quickly. However, sometimes you might have to have a blended job role where your hunter's also required to farm a little bit. You want them to extend into the sales process because maybe you haven't developed farmers or you're going into a new market and you don't have the luxury of having 50 different roles and a person has to play double duty. So don't be afraid to design that compensation plan to effectively meet your strategic needs. Third is this concept of, do I have to be on quotas or could I potentially use commission rates, right? Very large companies typically don't have commission rate plans. They've matured to quota-based plans. If you can't measure something, you definitely shouldn't pay on it, right? So don't move to quotas unless you're absolutely sure, is your data accurate? Can you explain how you came up with the quota? Are you going to have a distribution curve that's bimodal that has a bunch of losers and winners and then the losers leave the company for whatever reason? That's not good. So try out different mechanics that make sense for you. Fixing pay levels first, right? People come in and they go, oh my God, we have a sales comp issue. We're not paying our salespeople enough. Salespeople never think they get paid enough. Make sure you focus on the issues that are really at hand and do the root cause analysis versus just focusing on that. And lastly, the concept of top performers having to earn 3x, 4x their target incentive. Obviously, you do want to have competitive plans, right? But really understand what motivates my sales team. Is it just the commission plan? Is it having a phenomenal President's Club? Is it having additional spiffs? There's different levers you can use besides just saying, hey, everybody else is paying 3x, I got to pay 3x, otherwise people are going to leave. So hopefully some of these things, plus the stuff we talked about, give you some guidance on things to use so you can keep your plane flying. Happy to answer any questions after the session if anybody is up for it. Thank you.